Hello, everyone. You may be asking, why? Jordan, why?
We do not care.
But at the same time, you're probably not asking, just tell me to get on with it. Experimenting and for fun. And I knew I didn't want to do this alone. So I got the one person who doesn't like Linux to switch with me. And that would be Jaymo. His link is going to be in the description. I've been seeing a lot of videos about people switching over to Linux. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of interested. So, I thought, what if I threw my beret into the ring and, try for a week? Week is kind of a short time, but it's definitely enough for me to give my, my general opinion of things. I use a lot of things for a week, especially, my controllers. That's how I do my controller reviews. I use it for about a week or so, and I give my thoughts on them. So why not do it for an entire OS? I can't just say that I'm using Linux. I gotta say a specific distro. So we're using Bazzite. That's what we've decided on because it is touting itself as having the stability of a Chromebook and that it is gaming focused. So it does have optimizations for gaming, and we both do play games. Well, me more than him. We decided to buy ourselves a 1 terabyte SSD SATA for each of us, and they both are 550 megabytes up and down, so both of them are, as fast as they can really be. Thinking on it, it's like some people could say it's like a moth to a flame, and I know certain people will understand what I mean. Definitely will understand what I mean. I've made a checklist for both of us to do things that we would usually do on Windows, being as we are gamers and creators. It's a pretty simple list, but it was supposed to be that way, so, we can get a feel for, just how much Linux has evolved for 2025. And I know for a lot of people that have been on Linux since like day one of their birth, probably even before their birth, that are probably going to be like, oh, these are really easy. You should really try some stuff like coding and 3D rendering. I don't do 3D rendering, and I don't do coding. So that's just not something I do. What I do is video editing. So and so does Jaymo. So video editing is going to be something that we definitely focus on in terms of using Linux and how good the editors are on there. Because I know for a fact the editors that I use are not on there and aren't supported through Wine. This is also going to be a very interesting test because both of us have completely different, well, not completely different, but have different configurations for our PCs. So for me, I have an AMD RX 6800 along with an RTX 4060. So yes, I have a dual GPU system, and that's not really a thing that a lot of people do. And for Jaymo, it is just straight up a NVIDIA card. He has a RTX 4070. I've heard through the grapevine that NVIDIA has some issues with Linux still, and it's getting better, but it's still at a place where it's not perfect. For AMD, the drivers are built into the kernel, so I'm quite interested to see how that'll work. I don't know how I feel about the idea of the drivers being built into the kernel, and if something breaks, I don't know. I can't reinstall the drivers. I might have to, recompile the entire kernel? Is that what I have to do? I don't want to do that. But since it's universal blue, I think it would fix itself if something went wrong, and hopefully something doesn't go wrong. So yeah. So without further ado, let's get into the challenge. Okay, so this one is my Windows drive, and this one I've already just installed Bazzite on it because, everybody's seen that setup before on the internet if you're searching up Bazzite or whatever. So this is already pre-installed. Already got some stuff in there already. It's my Windows one, and it will be out of my computer for an entire week. So yeah, I hope this goes smoothly. I decided to use the NVIDIA image version of Bazzite because I do have a NVIDIA GPU. And it worked pretty well. It definitely had no problems launching or booting or even like anything weird with it. It just worked, which is good because, I had my fears of that being a dual GPU user, and I thought that Linux would be a bit confused on what GPU it should use for anything, but it seemed to be working just fine. So while I was already signed into Steam and Heroic Games Launcher had everything set up for that, I just installed the games that I usually play, except for Fortnite, because I could not. The first game I played was Super Vibe. It's a new MOBA that came out recently, or at least had its 1.0 release recently. I've been playing it for a lot longer than that, though, as a closed beta tester, and a closed alpha tester even. But it ran just fine. It actually ran really, really well. This is actually a new development, because before, during the closed beta and open beta, it did not work on Proton. But now it does, so it runs really well, really smooth too. The only issue that I had was that usually I use ReWAS to remap my controller to the keyboard controls, so I would have a controller and mouse setup, but apparently Bazzite had a built-in, well, pre-installed input remapper, and I was able to get that set up, and I was able to play the game just fine. In very, very simple terms, Linux uses a translation layer called Wine or Proton that allows Windows games to be played on Linux. And it has very little overhead at this point, and in some games it does run a lot better. And as you're about to see, some of the games that I play definitely run better. My biggest issue has always been older Windows games running weird because they weren't built for the newer Windows OSs. A lot of them coming from Windows 8 or Windows 7 or even older, and they kind of freak out when they're on Windows 10 or Windows 11. Proton completely fixes this. I don't know what type of black magic is being used, but I was able to play Condemned Criminal Origins as well as the older Tomb Raider games perfectly, almost flawlessly, and it was actually amazing how smooth they were. I mean, I was barely able to get like a stable 60 to 100 FPS on Condemned Criminal Origins, but on Linux through Proton, I was hitting 300 frames and even higher. It was crazy. I was blown away. For newer games, they also ran really well. Marvel Rivals really had only one issue, and that was slow down while I was playing the game and it got really busy. But other than that, it ran really, really well. Peak also ran just fine. It has a native Vulkan version, so there wasn't really any crazy translation stuff going on there. And it ran really smooth. Everything ran perfectly fine. I was able to play, I believe, 3 whole sessions during my whole entire week. I actually did recently a collaboration with some of my siblings playing Peak, and that went off without a hitch. Indie games were the ones that impressed me the most. I have a strange issue with indie games that are made on itch. For some reason, they have this weird stuttering or low frame rate issue when it comes to Unity or Unreal Engine in general, unless I turn VSync off. That is a problem for a lot of games that don't have the option to turn VSync off within the game. So I would have to go into the driver settings, turn off VSync forcefully, and then limit the FPS to my monitor's refresh rate so it could be played smoothly. But for Linux, that wasn't an issue. I pressed play, it worked, and it was smooth. There was no stuttering. There were no slowdowns. It was very, very nice to play. The only issue that I had were that some redistributables weren't able to be installed when I was trying to play a certain game, which was Deadcam, but I was able to play it through Steam because they had a demo on there, so I played it on there instead, and that ran just fine. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, whatever. I just played it on Steam. So in terms of gaming, pretty much everything was fine. Literally the only game that I couldn't play was Fortnite. I could have played through Greenlight, but I wasn't going to do that at all. I'm not crazy. So then all I had to do was do the other challenges, and that proved to be pretty easy, which I was actually really surprised by. Okay, so we're gonna go through our checklist. Well, at least on my side, I'm gonna do my checklist. So we're going to browse the web, so watch YouTube or Twitch. I'm a YouTube kitty, so I mean, I've already have Queso loaded up here because I was gonna watch. But yeah, it's working just fine. It loaded up just fine. Zen browser has been really good to me actually for Linux. It's a lot faster than Windows, that's for sure. It takes like maybe 6, 7, sometimes up to 10 or 15 seconds for it to launch on Zen. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be pretty snappy, but as time has gone on, it's gotten a lot slower. But if I close Zen right now and I launch it again, it's pretty fast. It's right there, maybe 3 seconds at most, but it was pretty fast. And if I load up YouTube, that's also pretty fast. Yep, there we go. And it plays just fine. If I press full screen, it'll work. There's no, what the hell? Okay, that was weird. That was on YouTube. But it doesn't have like a weird flickering issue that I would have on Windows. Because for some reason FreeSync on Windows is weird. At least with AMD, it'll start like changing frame rate when I'm watching a video. So I would have to go into Radeon software itself and turn off FreeSync for the browser just so it can be a smooth experience. It would make the video skip frames because of that weird FreeSync issue. But as you can see, we've only dropped 3 frames, and I'm pretty sure that's because I went full screen, so it started being weird. But yeah, YouTube has been running very good. Very good. Boop. Customize desktop. That one's also pretty much done. This is not the default wallpaper. I actually found this from Bazzite's repository on GitHub, and I really liked it, so I decided to put it on there. And then, of course, I have my favorite games, or my frequented games, on here, and as well as my programs. And this is how I usually have it on Windows. And my taskbar is also customized, so yeah, we've all got that one figured out. The one thing that I do feel weird about is that you see this flashing on the system tray. Like it'll sometimes just do that, and I can't figure out what it is. And no matter if I go into settings or not, it won't show what it is that's flashing. It'll only show just a blank thing and then reset. It's weird, and I think I've only found it to fix temporarily when I restart, but it's kind of annoying, especially when notifications is right there and it like jumps. Okay, Queso's getting really loud. My RAM's already filling up because of him, so let me just stop him real quick. He's a little too heavy for the system. Hold on, I'll show you. Yeah, you see this? You see what's going up here? Like this entry thing, it'll come above application status, show when relevant. It's just nothing. It's so weird. Okay, let's extract a zip file. I've already extracted some, but let's do that. I have an assets folder right here, and I have pzip, and I can extract through that, but I kind of want to do it through Dolphin's own extraction system. This is the file explorer for KDE. It's called Dolphin, and it's been pretty nice. I had to customize it a bit because it was very bare bones. So this top thing was not the way it was before. Also, yeah, I have the little mouse finder feature on because it's on by default. I didn't turn it off, but it's very nice. I saw how big it could really get if I just kept going, and it like filled like half the screen. It was pretty funny. This is huge. That's what he said. But I can extract right here, extract here. It already has something, so we'll just press apply to all and overwrite. There's an error. Failed to open a file for writing. Interesting. Hey, future Jordan here. I also forgot to compress the files into a zip, which was, right under it. I forgot that clicking on the whatever, the checkbox will click it for both of them on the top. So, but I did extract. So what we're going to do is we're going to compress. We're just going to put a bunch of these files, and we're going to press compress, and we're going to press to a zip. And there we go. That was fast. Immediately right there. Cool. And then we're going to extract it again. Boom. All of them are right there. Easy. Easy. Boom. Write a document or take notes. I've already taken notes here on Google Keep, but in terms of writing documents, I wrote one in Only Office, which is a line for the B-roll. Well, not, yeah, for the B-roll. And here it is. It's short, and I'll probably write more to it, but I can indeed write to a document writer, and it'll save in DocX, so it's able to be read in LibreOffice, in regular Microsoft Office, even in Google Docs, so it'll run just fine. Boop. Record gameplay. I'm already recording this whole thing. It must be at least 1080p 60 FPS, and it must have working audio. Now let's talk about the audio. Because apparently Elgato, at least the Elgato Wave mics, aren't the greatest on Linux. Every time that I have to boot up the system, I have to go into this audio mixer and go to devices, and then I have to switch it from analog stereo output back to digital stereo output plus mono input. I don't know why it's only a mono input for Linux, seeing as it's stereo for Windows on stock, but I guess it just has something to do with the firmware of Elgato. I'm kind of sad that there are no like official drivers for Elgato on Linux, given how popular the brand is with content creators. But hopefully down the road that will change, and hopefully down the road we get a good mixer, good audio mixer like Wavelength and SteelSeries Sonar. I'm surprised Voice Meter's not on here. I would have thought that Voice Meter was on here, but it's apparently not. So I had to use this audio processing software called Easy Effects, and I have to have it open at all times. It will not minimize to tray for some reason, but I was able to turn my mono into stereo this way, so that's very cool. And I'm able to, yeah, just do regular stuff that I usually am able to do. I don't have Supertone Clear or Elgato Voice Focus, but I do have Deep Noise Remover along with stacked noise reduction, so it should sound fine. But I've also heard about the horror stories of how audio is on Linux, so I guess we'll find out with that. I'm a little scared. Now for listening to music, that one's pretty easy. I have Spotify installed through Flatpak, through Bazzite. There's that. And I'm able to play music, and I will not play the music on my recording because I do not want to get a van coming to my house and then tying me up with some rope. I'm not into that. So I prefer that not to happen to me. So yeah, I will not be playing it on the recording, but I am playing it and it is running, and I am listening to break-ins. So yeah, cool. It's working. I'm able to listen to music just fine while I'm playing, writing, watching something, or, you know, just talking to friends. So yeah, that works. That works very well. Boop. On the third day, I started doing a lot of other stuff, especially, you know, going back into Discord and talking with people, and also watching some videos and movies with them. And it worked pretty well. Well, Discord is very, very weird. Apparently there is some audio issues going on with the app, specifically on Linux, and it's I've had like one bout of weirdness where I'd had crackling audio from other people, and that wasn't a thing on a different version of Discord. But after that, it ran pretty well. I was able to stream my games and stream them to other people. So yeah, that one was pretty easy. That one I didn't think I would have so much trouble with. Apparently Jaymo did, but for me, it went fine. It went pretty fine. Another one that I just finished today was making a video for YouTube. It was Deadcam. Where is it? But yeah, I recorded a video for Deadcam. Can I show what it looks like? Where's the about? No. Dimensions 1440p and 60 FPS. And AV1 encoding. So there we go. We have recorded a gameplay video, and it has working audio. I made sure of that one. So there we go. I actually do want to give a little update on my desktop situation. You probably already saw it in some of the clips, but I did change the windows. Well, the window managers. As you can see, it's like a lot more Chrome OS-y. I like the KDE look, but you know, I just wanted something a little bit more familiar, and Chrome OS is the closest I can see. I didn't want to look too much like Windows 11, but Chrome OS is like a very good mix between the two, since Chrome OS is Linux, as much as people don't like to admit it. Changed a little bit of the system tray, so it's a lot less cluttered. I kind of wish that they would have like a little pop-up tray like this one. I can't figure out how to make one. There probably is a widget for it, honestly, so I'll probably like make one or find one down the road. Everything else has been pretty nice. I haven't really wanted to change the taskbar. It seems just fine for me. Anything else like the wallpaper, I tried to get wallpaper engine working, but I kind of gave up on that, so I might just do like a weird live wallpaper plugin that KDE already has to change it down the road. But right now it's pretty nice. It's not as nice as what Jaymo's looks like right now, but it is very familiar for me and it feels like home. So I'm happy about that one. Okay, I have made a thumbnail. I chose Photopia, which is a lot more like Photoshop than GIMP. Even with GIMP installed, it's through a web app called Photocria, so it's a lot more like integrated into like making it seem like more of a desktop experience. This is what I could come up with for the thumbnail, and I think I did pretty good. I think I did pretty okay. Especially with the tools that were given to me. Being a web app, honestly, this is pretty powerful. I'm actually very surprised. So yeah, a lot easier. I had a very much a better time with this than I did with GIMP, for sure. It's the third day. I'm starting to miss being able to just boot up Fortnite whenever I want. In terms of what my uploaded video, how I felt about editing after that, I definitely miss Filmora. Kdenlive is definitely taking time to get used to, especially all the controls. It's definitely weird. It's not as seamless as something like CapCut or Filmora, but actually it's not even as seamless as DaVinci Resolve in my opinion, but it's doable. It was serviceable for sure. There's not much more to say about Kdenlive. I did make my own glitch outro. If you did watch the past video of Dead Cam, that's one of my like signature transitions is a glitch outro, and apparently Kdenlive doesn't have that style of transition, so I had to make it myself. Well, of course, with the help of like a video guy to get, the right presets. I also really miss Affinity Photo. Photopia has been pretty good to me. It's just not as powerful as Affinity Photo, of course, because it's a web-based image editor. But everything else, it's been pretty okay. There's a few glitches with like notification pop-ups. Well, I don't know if I can call it a glitch. I might have just screwed up something, and no matter how much I do, I can't bring it back on my primary monitor. So I guess I have to live with it being on my vertical monitor for now. In terms of audio, it's very annoying having to log in, change from digital output to plus mono input to analog, or vice versa, whichever I leave it on. I really wish that my mic would just start working as soon as I log in, but that's not the case. So everything else in terms of gaming has been fine. Web browsing has been fine. Literally everything else has been fine. My controller works fine, like I just put in here. I have built-in gyro, hardware gyro on this, and I activate it with the press of the C button. Actually, is it C? Yeah, it's the C button, and that detects it just fine. So I'm able to play Marvel Rivals with gyro enabled just fine. Oh, in terms of OBS, that's been doing good for me, except I can't have keybinds anymore, or hotkeys. So I usually use Alt and then numpad 0 to start a recording and to stop it, and I believe Alt delete or / period to pause it, and I can't do that. And apparently that's like a limitation with Wayland. Been messing up my entire flow. Honestly, I'm able to do that with GPU screen recorder, but with GPU screen recorder, I can't use the NVIDIA GPU in my system. I still haven't really figured out how to get that to work. I think it has to do with some terminal stuff, and I really don't want to do terminal stuff. I did try to look up a bunch of things on like how to fix these issues or notification and bugs and whatever, like the little flashing thing on my taskbar that keeps popping up but doesn't really like have anything to it, and it just disappears like a split second later. It might be a system update that might fix it, but yeah, I haven't found any fixes for that. I've kept my communication with the Linux community to a minimum because a lot of them seem to have a very bad superiority complex. It's very weird, especially that guy on Twitter where he said that Bazzite's not real Linux in a true sense. Well, I mean, I see the Linux kernel on Bazzite. I press neo fetch, and I see, Linux kernel version 6.14 or whatever I was on. So I assume, you know, that this is, you know, Linux. I didn't see Windows NT, so I assume that I am on Linux. But you know, I may be wrong. He may know more than me in terms of what Linux is. So I guess that's my fault. That's my bad for not choosing real Linux. It's my fault for choosing an immutable distro where I can't break anything, or it's really hard for me to break stuff. So yeah, no, that's honestly my bad. That actually brings me to another conversation in terms of like things like games like Fortnite. There was a recent post on Reddit that I saw a bit earlier. Somebody was like, can we stop, you know, being mad at developers for using kernel level anti-cheat? And a lot of the replies in that Reddit post were, you know, people were like, well, you know, that's my own form of boycott. I'm just not going to play the game. Maybe they should think about using kernel level anti-cheat. They really hate us. And it's like, okay, we have to be realistic here. Kernel level anti-cheat, of course, I don't like it either. Things like server side anti-cheat and whatever else type of anti-cheat doesn't really work against cheaters because they're always evolving. They're always finding new ways to break through the anti-cheat. And kernel level just makes it extremely hard. And it's not saying it's impossible to not cheat, because of course we still get cheaters, but it's also extremely hard to find workarounds around that anti-cheat. And I respect that. I absolutely respect devs that want to keep their game's integrity, you know, mostly intact with kernel level anti-cheat, because time and time again, it has shown that has been the most effective. It is unfortunate because I don't like, you know, things getting into my system, but I also understand. But there's ways to make the anti-cheat work on Linux. And as we've seen before, like Marvel Rivals, they have a kernel level anti-cheat, but it is enabled for Proton and it works just fine under Linux. In terms of other games, if I remember, Dead by Daylight also has an easy anti-cheat enabled for Linux. Of course, it's not as strong. But it's able to be played. And I think we need to encourage devs to just enable the anti-cheat for Proton instead of just being like, oh wow, you're such a piece of shit for using kernel level anti-cheat to protect your game from cheaters. How could you? I trusted you. No, it just creates a bunch of like spite or, you know, just bitterness towards the community. It's like, oh well, maybe I just won't work around Linux at all. Maybe you guys are just shit out of luck because, you know, you're insulting me. You're trying to blame me for whatever, for spying on you, even though I just want my game to not have 5 million cheaters. That's my bad, I guess. I think that we should definitely just, you know, give devs a little nudge like, hey, can you enable Proton, you know, compatibility with your anti-cheat? I know it's not going to be as strong as normal Windows kernel level anti-cheat, but you know, it will still run and we'll still be able to play the game. You'll have more players, especially since the Steam Deck is popular now, and that's like the biggest excuse you can make. You can be a Linux player and be like, hey, can you enable blank for Steam Deck? And they'll think about it. Maybe. I would love for Fortnite to be on Linux. Like that is like my dream. Because I can't stand the amount of weirdness that I get on Windows with Fortnite, and with the games I've been playing on here where there's not a lot of weirdness and there's quite a bit of stability, I would love to see how Fortnite runs on here. And it's a shame that we can't, because, you know, Tim Sweeney is, you know, he hates Linux for some reason. Did you know that Fortnite's getting like Windows on ARM compatibility before Proton compatibility? Like, are we serious? Oh yeah, I'm sure the 5 people that have a Qualcomm laptop will be very happy that they can play Fortnite on their system at 30 FPS. As you can see, I'm very passionate about being able to play Fortnite wherever I want to go. And then the next 4 days after that, I used my PC like normal. I just kept playing my video games. A new demo came out for Trails in the Sky, and I decided to test and see if I can play it, and it played beautifully. I played Kena, I played Crosscode, and then I even played the community version of Spellbreak, which I haven't touched in years. I haven't touched Spellbreak at all in years, and it ran beautifully. It brought a tear to my eye almost. If I could cry. This whole entire endeavor has made me remind myself that I absolutely love Vulkan. Also, the idea of processing those Vulkan shaders before you actually start the game, I thought I would hate it, but I absolutely love it. It's like worth waiting however long it takes to process those shaders before the game starts on Steam, because it's just a smooth experience. And on the final day, I gave my last thoughts as the hours were ticking. We're about 4 hours away from the challenge officially ending. Well, I guess now 3 hours. It is about to hit 9 p.m. How do I feel about Linux? I think it's pretty cool. In terms of general gaming, it's been pretty nice. I just today finished a collaboration stream with some of my friends, some of my VTuber friends, and we played Peak, and that ran really well. It was pretty seamless. There was nothing wrong. This is like one of the few times where Peak hasn't crashed on me. Well, this whole week Peak hasn't crashed on me. I definitely miss playing Fortnite. That is for sure. I'm definitely gonna be glad to be able to play that again. I tried so many methods to play the game. I tried to download the mobile version through Waydroid, but that didn't work. Even with the ARM emulation install. I have Greenlight, which is like xCloud streaming, and the issue with that is of course it's cloud streaming, and Fortnite is inherently a game where you need good reaction time. So that just wasn't going to work. Added on that it's a 60 FPS cap, and added on to the latency of streaming in general, it just wasn't gonna work. Now, in terms of the creative department, it's been a little rough. Kdenlive is cool. I did complete my challenge of editing a video with Kdenlive. You know, it's not the best edit. I don't think I'm going to get really used to using that editing software, especially when I've been exposed to a software like Filmora 14 and CapCut for desktop. Neither are more powerful than the other. They just have their own strengths, and they also have their own weaknesses. But CapCut is the one that I've like gotten around the weaknesses with. Same with Filmora. And I think if I did have more time using Kdenlive, or if I like started with Kdenlive, I would definitely feel a lot better about it. But as it stands, Kdenlive is just kind of for me. I could have used DaVinci Resolve, but I do have a few issues with it on Linux. DaVinci Resolve kind of locks itself up real good without it being Studio. So the free version's pretty limited compared to the free version on Windows. There's the fact that it doesn't really have a resizable window. Well, an easily resizable window. I know that there's like hotkeys for it, but I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to treat it like any other window. That, in terms of creativeness, it's been weird. For photo editing, Photopia is nice. It's not as powerful as Affinity Photo V2. That is for sure. But it was serviceable. It was nice. It was able to make me, it was able to let me make 2 thumbnails, the dead cam thumbnail, which isn't my best work. But it did help me make the Linux thumbnail for this video. So yeah, it was pretty decent. And that's one of the main barriers for me in terms of Linux. There's a lot of software that I did pay for. What do you call it? Sunk cost fallacy. I can't just, well, I could, but I don't want to ditch the software that I paid a few $100s on. And that's just the reality of it. I can't do that. In terms of stability, it's been amazing. Being able to boot Bazzite and not boot up to a black screen and having to hard reset my PC has been really nice. It's been extremely nice. I always depend on it starting up, and it does. It starts up on first boot. It's very nice. There has been one time where I tried shutting it down and it kind of wasn't an infinite loading, so I just hard shut it down, but that didn't break anything. The fact that basically I can't screw up the system unless I really try, is great. It's so nice. It's such a nice chain. I'm used to fighting with Windows every year and having to reinstall it. With Bazzite, it feels like that I can use this and it just won't break. It really does feel like I have a whole new PC and like I have whole new parts when I'm playing these games on Bazzite. It's actually insane. Older games have been a blessing on this thing. They run so smooth. They run so well. It's ridiculous. Everything launches fast too, by the way, like extremely fast. It doesn't take a very long time, and I'm really impressed by that. But the Wavedroid thing, I could have edited using CapCut Mobile, but there's that issue where when I accidentally move a file next to Wavedroid's screen, it'll freak out, immediately close out, and when I open Wavedroid again, I have no internet connection. So I kind of gave out on that because I'm not going to full screen my file explorer or my local send just to, you know, not have that happen. Apparently I use a lot less Android than I thought I would. I thought I was going to bank on that a lot actually for some of the tasks that I wanted to do, or that I got us both to do. If you have an Elgato Wave USB microphone, I don't recommend using it for Linux. Definitely use something else. I know Blue Yeti works. I'm actually surprised nobody has made like open source drivers for Elgato, but that's probably because Elgato stuff is probably proprietary and closed source, and you might get in trouble if you make open source drivers for them. But I digress. Audio routing has been a nightmare, especially when it comes to OBS. I've had to install a whole plugin just to get the games and Discord and video voice call working on separate tracks. It's just been a lot. Elgato and SteelSeries had made it so much easier for me, but I did get it working and it's been fine so far. Everything else has been pretty great. Stable, pretty, it's a pretty OS, very nice for gaming. It's very nice for just, you know, as a daily driver. It's been great, at least on my end. For Jaymo, it hasn't been the prettiest. And I'm fairly certain, I'm like 80% sure. I'm 80% sure that most of the problems he has had is because he still had the Windows drive in his system. And yeah, he has that dual boot setup. Because I know, and I've heard, that Windows doesn't like to play nice with other OSs installed, even if you have it on like a whole different drive. So I'm pretty sure a lot of those problems had to do with that. But yeah, it's been great for me, especially with my multi-GPU setup, which is like, I really wanted to try because it was definitely a thing that I use and rely on all the time. I would have not done this. I would have not lasted an entire week if this dual setup didn't work. The big question is, would I use this again? Yeah, absolutely. Because I like it and I love it. If I had another build, I just need a case and a motherboard, and then I'm pretty sure that's all I need. And if I had those two things, you can help me if you donate to coffee, by the way. Anyway, if I had those two things, the thing that I would put on it is Bazzite. That is for sure. If I want to go and, you know, just play some old games that I have on GOG, games that are historically bad to play on Windows 10 and Windows 11, I'd play it on Bazzite. I think some days at this point, there will be days where I just plug in my Bazzite drive on this main PC, and if I have no plans to play Fortnite that day, if I'm not feeling it that day. But yeah, it's been great. I would definitely use Bazzite again for sure as a daily driver. I think I would do this again if I could, but I'd probably do it alone this time, just so I don't have any other person suffer with me, because I chose Jaymo of all people, who has the worst luck of his life. So if you want to go and see what issues he had, I'm going to leave a link in the description when he does upload it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to coordinate uploads with him, so it'll probably be up at about the same time that this video is up. Anyways, if you want to check him out, go ahead and check him out. And for me, I will be back on Windows, sadly, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.